What we do here is go back.
The following episode of the Lost Media podcast contains mentioning and imagery of distressing topics such as the Holocaust. Viewer discretion is advised. How's it going, guys, and welcome to episode 11 of the Lost Media podcast. I'm back here again today looking at The Day the Clown Cried, this time in a full episode. I did talk about it yesterday on my top 5 Lost movies episode. But today we're going to go through pretty much everything I know about this in a podcast. It is one of the strangest examples of film history gone wrong. Of a film gone wrong in the film history. Like, it's insane what happened with this movie and the journey it went on to becoming one of those elusive pieces of lost media, even though it's not really lost. It's always been found. It's just never available to the public. It is a long story, so we just might begin with Joan O'Brien in the early 70s, wrote The Day the Clown Cried, and the rights were never exclusively given to the film, to the person who greenlit this thing. I don't know his name, but he greenlit the film, and he never actually got the rights. He just lied to Jerry Lee Lewis and said, yeah, we're good to go. Yeah, The Day the Clown Cried. I've got the rights to this. And it was only towards the end of production where Jerry Lee Lewis found out that they didn't have the rights from Joan O'Brien. And this was not allowed to be distributed. The basic story of it, it's a clown who is just acting like a dickhead, who's a bit of a bad person, and he's impersonating Hitler in the 1940s in World War II. God, this is already fraught with danger. And so he's sent to a Nazi concentration camp as punishment for impersonating Hitler. And he becomes kind of a shoulder to cry on for this is so messed up even explaining this plot. For the Jewish kids who are being sent into the gas chambers, he's the clown of the concentration camp that lifts their spirits up a little bit right before they're sent to die. There's a way you could do this and make it like a charming and also very sad type of movie, and that's what they were going for. They wanted to be a film that was similar to The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, but it ended up being so messed up. It's like a bad Holocaust joke. This entire movie, it sounds absolutely horrible, but it is. This entire thing is a bad Holocaust joke, and it shouldn't have ever been greenlit. I don't understand how this got almost entirely filmed. I think it wasn't finished. I think towards the end of production hadn't finished, and Jerry Lee Lewis found out they didn't even have the rights to it, and he's like, oh, screw you dickhead, for lying to me. I'm going to take control of this and try and finish it myself. And I'm not sure if they actually did go through it all, because the people who have the full film roll at the moment, as of 2021, they revealed they have the full film roll. There's no sound intact, and the film's not even finished. It's also not edited. Jerry Lee Lewis said, I don't know if he confirmed this, I might be misquoting here, but I'm pretty sure he said that it is there, and it is, but I don't think he specified that it's edited, but it exists. He's specified multiple times. In a 2001 interview with Jerry Lee Lewis, someone brought up the film, and he's like, none of your goddamn business. That was at a convention of sorts. So for 43 years, he wouldn't talk about it in interviews. And then a 2016 documentary had him in it talking about it, and it actually released several scenes from the movie, about 30 minutes worth of the film. They actually got him to talk about it on camera. I think before he, potentially was not of this earth. He wanted to explain more about it and give people some context and why it's one of those huge regrets of his career, because your career's over. You're an old man. You want to clear the room a bit. And he cleared the room and said in an interview that it was bad. Like, it just he completely missed the mark from a career perspective. And when this movie was announced in the early 70s, people were like, why is Jerry Lee Lewis doing a movie about a clown in a concentration camp, like something so serious? Because he was known for stuff like The Nutty Professor, comedy stylings with Dean Martin, stuff like that. You know, he wasn't known for doing anything serious. His entire brand as his career and as, you know, a public figure was comedy, and was being that guy who walked into a room and just could make everyone burst out laughing. So for him to do a film like this, right off the bat, it's like Adam Sandler or someone who's just known for doing comedy movies. Doing this, people would have said back in the 90s, it's like Jim Carrey doing one of these movies, but he's proven that he can do a serious role. So, you know, maybe this movie should have been made a bit later with Jim Carrey and a more serious and more, I guess, tasteful plot to it, because this is just... I can see why they thought it was serious, actually. I can see why they thought they were making a real serious time period drama film, because the book itself wasn't meant to be a joke. But just having Jerry Lee Lewis and the way I think they filmed this, it just isn't right. And I can confirm that because I've got a quote here from Harry Shearer, who played Mr. Burns in The Simpsons, and who has done multiple film and TV roles in his career. And he saw this in the early 80s. Like, he saw this in, I think, 79, actually. And he was quite moved by it. Jerry Lee Lewis allowed him to watch it. And his quote basically says, "Seeing this film was really awe-inspiring in that you are rarely in the presence of a perfect object. This was a perfect object. This movie is so drastically wrong, its pathos and comedy are so wildly misplaced that you could not, in your fantasy of what it might be like, improve on what it really is." Oh my God. That's all you can really say. As it's... oh, sorry. It's as if you flew down to Tijuana and suddenly saw a painting on a black velvet of Auschwitz. You just think, my God, wait a minute. It's not funny and it's not good, and someone's trying too hard in the wrong direction to convey this strongly held feeling. That's pretty much the vibe I got from this movie, in terms of the way I've explained it so far in this podcast, and the kind of way I feel about what they were going for. I think it's one of those pieces of lost media where you don't even need to see the film to know what you're going to watch. But he's indicating that it's far worse than you imagine. Like, it's far more like, oh Jesus, they really did that. And like I said at the start of this, it's a piece of cinema history that you've got to see to believe. But do you really have to see it? Is it... Well, apparently it was meant to be released in 2026 or 2024, I think. I think some YouTubers have made actual proper videos, not podcasts like this, on this video and explained that it will be released in 2024. But there's a huge problem with Jane O'Brien's estate, because she actually saw what they were doing with this movie and she watched a bit of it and she hated the direction this movie had taken, how completely different it was from her story. In terms of on the screen, it was more of just like it was making an ass of what she wrote. She was trying to convey a really serious but sad drama in her book. That's why I said, I can see how this could be done in a real, brilliant way, a real tasteful and sad, but like, something, trying to find something really special in the darkest of times. And that's why Jerry Lee Lewis was so interested in doing this. He wanted to find a way to convey his comedy stylings in maybe a place where you almost 100% of people would say, no, you can't convey comedy in such a horrible situation. But he wanted to try and do it, but in a really, charming and stylistically brilliant way. He didn't quite do that. In fact, unfortunately, did the opposite. But that's okay, you know. Everyone has those moments in their career that they wish they could take. I know I do. Uh, you know, there's heaps of videos I've made, and there's heaps of productions I've been involved in where I'm like, should I really be here? And I think this was one of those for him. This was definitely one of those things. And it's not funny. It's actually quite messed up. And if you ever get the chance to see this, even though it's in a widespread release one day potentially, just remind yourself that it is probably going to be much, much more shocking than, you know, and humor in the wrong places type of thing than you think it is. That's what Harry Shearer was trying to convey. A French director did see this in 2016. He was able to watch the rough cut, or not really edited, just, you know, scenes from the movie, and he thinks it's actually quite brilliant in some ways. He had a different opinion of it. He thought he could see what was trying to be done, and he wanted to look at it in a more positive light, which is fine. You know, that's a good way of that's a good way of looking at it. But in my opinion, you got to look at it at face value, like Harry Shearer did. You got to look at it at what it is and what happened. And in my opinion, it went wrong. It went very poorly wrong. But this guy saw it, and he chose to look at it in a more positive light, and I respect that. But yeah, Joan O'Brien's estate, I completely went off track from that earlier in the podcast. Joan O'Brien's estate has, as of 2021, likely refused to release this anytime soon. So it probably won't get a 2024 or 2026 release. It probably will just remain unreleased for many, many years, which I'm not sure if that's the right thing or the wrong thing. I think it, as a piece of cinema history, and massive film buffs like me would love to see what went wrong, I guess. I'm just glad it was never released. I think it would have killed his career, Jerry Lee Lewis, if this was actually released. And he had an amazing career, and he was such an awesome, even as part of the duo with Dean Martin in the 1950s and 60s, they were incredible. I mean, they were so good. And The Nutty Professor was definitely a huge hit for him. And to follow up a huge hit with this would have been a shocker for him, and would have just made him super upset with what he's done to his career. So I'm glad this didn't get released at the time, but in a historical sense, especially now that Jerry Lee Lewis has passed away, he didn't want this released in his lifetime. He made sure of that. I think it would be a good thing to see. But yeah, Jerry Lee Lewis's son has confirmed that it's not edited, it's not finished, the audio is not properly intact at all. And in fact, I don't think it is intact with the original footage. I think it still exists somewhere, but it's not intact with what reels they have of it. And yeah, there's a lot of work to get this going, and Joan O'Brien's estate and her family, who are the rights holders, and who she wrote the book better than The Day the Clown Cried was conveyed on film, like the complete opposite. And I don't think they want that to taint her work and to destroy that, completely destroy her work. But everyone understands that this is from a long time ago. It's a piece of cinema history, and it probably should be seen. That's all I've got for The Day the Clown Cried. I will make a follow-up video to this if it gets released. I might watch it live on stream. You never know. And just talk about it in a stream on this channel. God, can I just say, I'm loving the support. I appreciate it so much. I reacted to that like it was bad. Like, God, it's awesome. Like, to see in such a short space of time people get around these videos. Thank you so much. Don't be scared to suggest things in the comments and to give me criticism about these podcasts, to tell me where I went wrong, where I went right, because I'm desperate to improve with one continuous recording. I want to become that live stream type where I get everything right, bang on in a live recording. These are pretty much live because there's no edits in their podcasts, so I want to just nail stuff. I don't want to, tiptoe around things and just act like I know something, because I've done that a couple times recently on these podcasts and it's no good. So please tell me where I'm going wrong. Please suggest things in the comments. Like the videos. I have a way of bringing dislikes back. Everyone has a way, the Chrome extension. I want to see the dislikes. I want to see the likes. I've been doing YouTube for a very long time, since 2015. I get it. I like feedback. So tell me anything in the comments. Tell me to get in the comments. I don't care. I just want all sorts of criticism and feedback. I want to see it. So get on it. I feel like I've done this a lot of times. Like I've got some sort of nervous twitch. That was episode 11 of the Lost Media podcast. I'm back for the next one with an Australian Lost game show, which should be interesting. And then next week, I'm going to be doing more of them about things that I'm really passionate about that haven't been released yet. So we'll be excited. But yes, please, comments, suggest. And also, guys, one last thing. I'm sorry, this is just dragged on, this ending. Subscribe to the Ennui Radio YouTube channel and the Ennui Talk podcast, which is a podcast I'm the co-host of, and the guy who runs it, the host, is doing a fantastic job over on that YouTube channel. It's brilliant. It's very little known. That'll be in the description, so go in the description. Probably going to have to click see more because I'm going to have a lot of stuff in the description, but check that out. It's very hilarious to listen to. So give that a listen. A nice comedy podcast about all things on the internet. So yeah, that's it. I'll be back with more Lost Media after this and next week. There's going to be heaps of podcasts. Yes. Bin.